In the last lecture, we added a new column into the sign up table, and the value there, we gave it a default value. Now if we look at it and we go to the structure, we see we added the round sort pass, which is a varchar, and we gave it a default value. Now this default value is going to be used in when we are encrypting the password that will be saved in the database, because we don't want our password to just be plain text. For encryption, we are going to be using the PHP crypt method, and it says the crypt method is a one-way string hashing, and there are different hashing algorithms that can be used. We have the DES, the MD5, Blowfish, SHA-256, SHA-516. Now if you go up here, you see it says the salt parameter is optional. However, crypt creates a weak password without the salt. So we are going to be using this round salt pass that we created as the salt to make our password hashing to be very strong. Now to work with this crypt method, we go to our insert.php file. There, the first thing we need to do is we need to get this value from the database. We get this value. After getting the value, then we use the crypt method. So the first thing to do is we write a query, say SQL underscore salt, which is equal to my SQLi underscore query, and it takes two parameters, the connection and the query. So the query is going to be select round salt pass from sign up. Here we are not using any where condition, because the round salt pass value is going to be the same for every value that will be inserted into the database. It is going to be the same. So we are not using any where clause for it. After doing this, the next thing we need to do is we need to fetch the data. We're not going to use the while loop to fetch the data, because we just have one kind of data with a default value. So we are going to use the MySQLi fetch array, but not inside a while loop. So we just create a variable called row, and in it we say MySQLi fetch array, which is going to take the parameter SQL salt as the parameter. Now the next thing we need to do here now is we need to get the value itself, which is the round salt. We need to get this value. When we get this value using the MySQLi fetch array, then we set it equal to a parameter or a variable, and we're going to call that variable salt. So we create a variable called salt, then we set it equal to the value obtained, which is the round salt pass. So here is going to be round salt pass. Now we should be careful, and we should make sure that whatever value we are putting inside this row when we are using this MySQLi fetch array should be the same as the one we have in our database. So if we have different values, if the value here is different from the one we have here, there's going to be an error. Now with this, we've been able to get the value, the round salt pass value from the database. The next thing is to use the crypt method. The crypt method takes two parameters. The first parameter is the password we get from the form, and the second parameter is this salt value. So we create a new variable, or we use the existing variable called password. So we say password equal to the crypt method. So we pass in two parameters. The first one is going to be pass underscore word, which is the one we get from the form, and the next one is going to be the salt value, which is the default value we added when we created the round salt pass in the sign up table. So with this now, with this function now and these parameters, we've been able to encrypt this password. So whatever is gotten from here added to this will be encrypted with this crypt method. So now these values or this password will be the one that will be stored in the database. So we come here, change this, because here we are cleaning the values. So we are going to clean the value of any illegal character. Then after doing this, we go to the insert query and we see, okay, we have the same password value, not pass_word. So we have the same password value. So after doing this, and we make sure that every other thing is as the way they were. So before we test this out, I want to comment out this code that allows us to send emails when a user signs up, because I don't want to save time. I don't want to start going over to the email to verify the email. So what I'm going to do is just comment the code out. So it's just going to allow us to create new values and see how the password looks in the database. So we just refresh this page, then we just create new values. So we can test this. Then we click submit. Here it gives an error. It said undefined SQL salt. So we need to go to insert.php line 21 to look at the error. Insert.php line 21. It said okay, SQL. So we change this to salt. Once we do that, we save, we go back, we refresh or resend. Now the value have already been added, so let's go back to check. But before then, let's change this round salt pass. It said undefined index on line 22. Undefined index on line 22. Okay, round salt pass. So we go back, we refresh. Let's see the data we have in the database. Now if you check, the value was not encrypted properly. The first, we're supposed to have this value attached, the round salt pass attached to it, but because we had an error whereby instead of this to be capital P, it was small p, so it did not get the value, so the password was not encrypted. So if we go back, we can delete this from the database, refresh our page and create again to see. So create that again to see. What we have. So it did not give any error. We go to our database, we refresh, and now we can see that the first one we had, there was no the very long values I used. It did not appear, which is this round salt. Now we can see that the round salt pass was concatenated with the encrypted password. So this is how we encrypt our password in the database. It's now better than the plain text that we had earlier. So, and we've successfully seen how we can hash our password. So in the next lecture, we'll start working on the login form, whereby we add the login form, then we perform the client-side validation as well as the server-side validation on the login. So I'll see you in the next lecture.